She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him right now. He's leaving without my permission." The officer froze, confused, while I stood there with my last moving box in hand. My old house key was still warm in my pocket, and Karen, the self-declared queen of the neighborhood, was blocking my driveway like she owned the concrete beneath my shoes. Her face was red, hands shaking with fake authority as she waved a clipboard full of papers she had clearly printed at home. "This man can't move out until I sign off on it. That's HOA rules," she shouted. I couldn't help but laugh, but my chest burned because my daughter was watching from the car, terrified that her dad might actually get dragged away for trying to leave his own property. Karen leaned into the cop's ear, whispering something that made him glance at me with suspicion as if I were a criminal. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about rules, it was about control. The cop shifted uneasily, clearly not buying all of Karen's shouting, but also not ready to walk away. "Ma'am, I don't think moving out requires your approval," he said carefully. But Karen wasn't about to back down. She smirked, pulled out a paper stamped with something that looked official, and shoved it toward him. "Read this. It says no homeowner can vacate the property without HOA inspection. He's trying to sneak out and avoid penalties. That's a felony." Her voice cracked like she believed her own nonsense. The cop squinted at the paper, then at me. I could see doubt flickering in his eyes, like maybe he thought she had a point. That's when she stepped closer to me, lowering her voice just enough so the cop couldn't hear. "If you drive off, I'll have your car impounded within the hour." "Try me." My blood boiled, but I held still. "Karen," I said calmly, "you don't own me, and you don't own this land." She laughed. Actually laughed, like she had already won. "Oh, but I own the rules," she hissed. Then out of nowhere, she waved to the side street, and two men in cheap uniforms stepped out of a black SUV, flashing shiny badges that looked suspiciously fresh from a printer. "Private enforcement," she bragged, loud enough for the neighbors who had gathered on their porches. "They'll make sure you don't break HOA law." The real cop froze, unsure what to do as the fake ones started walking toward me with handcuffs in their hands. My daughter whimpered in the car, clutching her teddy bear. What Karen didn't know was that my son had been watching all of this from across the street. And he wasn't just anybody. Before the fake officers could reach me, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. "That's enough." Everyone turned. My son walked up the driveway, calm, steady, and carrying nothing but his phone. Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, another family member. Stay out of this, kid." He didn't flinch. "I'm not a kid," he said flatly, pulling a slim wallet from his jacket. A gold badge glinted in the evening sun. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Those two? They're not cops. They're committing a federal crime right now, impersonating law enforcement. The crowd of neighbors gasped. Even the real cop blinked in shock. Karen's smirk dropped for the first time, but she quickly forced it back. "You're bluffing. Anyone can order a fake badge online." My son tilted his head, pressed a button on his phone, and held it up to his ear. "Dispatch, this is Special Agent Miller. Confirming presence of 2 suspects impersonating officers at the Evergreen HOA district. Need immediate backup." His voice was calm, professional, terrifying. The 2 fake officers stiffened, exchanging nervous glances. One of them actually tried to tuck his fake badge back into his pocket like that would erase the evidence. The real cop now had his hand on his radio, staring at Karen like she'd just dragged him into the biggest mistake of his career. Karen tried to laugh it off, raising her hands like she was the victim. "This is all just procedure. It's neighborhood policy." But her voice cracked this time. She knew she was losing control, and that's when my son said the line that froze the entire block. "Neighborhood policy doesn't outrank federal law." Karen's face twisted, and I could see panic crawling under her skin, but she wasn't done. Not yet. "You don't understand," she barked, spinning toward the real cop like she was desperate to flip him back to her side. "This man's dangerous. He's hiding something. That's why he's running away in the middle of the night. He's probably skipping town to dodge debts or—" Her voice cracked, but she kept going, louder, shriller. "Check his car. Check his boxes. I bet you'll find stolen property." My daughter started crying in the back seat, covering her ears, and that broke me. I slammed the moving box down on the driveway, hard enough that the cardboard split. "You've gone too far, Karen," I said through clenched teeth. My son stepped in front of me, his badge still in hand, his voice steel. "Ma'am, you're making false accusations to law enforcement. Do you understand that's obstruction?" Do you understand you can go to prison for that? Karen flinched but then doubled down like all bullies do when the walls close in. She spun toward the neighbors, her arms waving like a preacher at a sermon. He's lying. That badge is fake. Don't you see? They're scamming all of us. If we let people like them get away, we lose control of our neighborhood. Her voice cracked with hysteria, but some neighbors looked uneasy. They weren't buying it anymore. The real cop finally spoke, his tone sharper this time. Ma'am, step back. Right now. But instead of backing down, Karen darted toward my car, yanking the door handle where my daughter sat. If the law won't protect us, then I will. She shrieked. My daughter screamed. That was her mistake. Sirens cut through the night, red and blue lights flashing against the rows of quiet houses. Real backup this time. 2 black SUVs rolled in, doors opening in perfect sync. Federal agents stepped out, jackets marked in bold yellow letters. The entire street went silent except for Karen's ragged breathing. She looked around, desperate, but there was nowhere left to run. One agent approached my son. Special Agent Miller, we've got it from here. My son gave a curt nod, then pointed straight at Karen. She brought in 2 impersonators, attempted unlawful detainment, and just assaulted a minor. The agent's eyes locked on Karen, cold and professional. Ma'am, you're under arrest. Karen's jaw dropped. What? No, you don't get it. I am the HOA president. I was doing my duty. These people break rules. They don't respect authority. She stumbled, voice shrill as the agents cuffed her hands behind her back. You can't just take me away. I make the rules here. The neighbors were still filming, whispering to each other. Some were smirking, others shaking their heads. The real cop, looking both embarrassed and relieved, stepped back to let the feds handle it. One of the fleeing fake officers tried to argue, but within seconds he and his partner were face down on the pavement, their cheap badges confiscated. As Karen was shoved into the back of a federal SUV, she screamed at me through the window. You'll regret this. This whole neighborhood will regret this. But her voice cracked, sounding less like power and more like defeat. My daughter peeked out from the car now, clutching her teddy tighter, her tears slowing when she saw Karen being driven away. For the first time that night, I could breathe. The neighborhood felt different the next morning. Word had spread faster than wildfire. Videos of Karen screaming, grabbing at my car, and being hauled off in cuffs were already circulating in community group chats. By sunrise, the HOA's email inbox was flooded with angry messages from residents demanding answers. I stood on my porch with a coffee, finally free of her shadow, when one of my neighbors walked over. He was holding his phone, shaking his head. Man, you see this? She's trending. People are calling her Handcuff Karen. He chuckled, but there was relief in his eyes too. Guess we're all done living under her rule. My son came outside, calm as always, though I could tell he was still watching the street with his agent's eyes. The feds are pressing charges, he said simply. Impersonating officers, false reports, child endangerment. She won't be walking back into this neighborhood anytime soon. It didn't stop there. By noon, a local news crew showed up. Cameras rolled as they interviewed neighbors who finally spoke up. Stories of fines that never existed, threats scribbled on fake HOA letters, and intimidation tactics Karen had used for years. One woman even admitted Karen had threatened to foreclose on her home if she didn't cut her grass to regulation length. The footage aired that evening, and there it was. Karen's empire of fake authority dismantled on live TV. My daughter sat on the couch beside me, her little hand in mine, whispering, "She can't hurt us anymore, right?" I kissed her forehead. "Not anymore, sweetheart." The neighbors who had been too scared to resist were finally smiling, some even thanking my son openly. The HOA board scrambled, distancing themselves from Karen, claiming they had no idea about her actions. But nobody believed them. Justice was no longer a question. It was happening piece by piece in front of everyone's eyes. That night the house was quiet, boxes stacked neatly by the door, ready for our move. But this time there was no fear, no shouting outside, no clipboard pounding on the door, just silence, the kind that feels like freedom. My daughter slept peacefully on the couch, teddy bear still in her arms, while I sat by the window watching the porch light glow. My son leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes steady. "You know, Dad," he said softly, "people like her, they only win if we stay quiet." I nodded, the weight of it hitting me. For years, Karen had ruled with fake power, and everyone let her because they were afraid of the noise she made. But all it took was truth and someone willing to stand up for her whole empire to collapse. I thought back to my father's words I hadn't really understood until that moment. Land is more than dirt and wood, it's freedom. And freedom isn't given, it's defended. Looking at my son, I realized he had carried that lesson farther than I ever could. As we finally locked the door for the last time, I paused on the porch, speaking more to the night than anyone else. I didn't fight for this country, raise a family, and work my whole life just to be told I can't move off my own land. Not by her, not by anyone. The neighbors watched us go, some waving, some just standing there quietly, but all of them knew things had changed. The fear was gone. The control was broken. And as I drove away with my daughter safe in the back seat and my son riding shotgun, I felt it deep in my chest. Justice wasn't just served. It was earned.